Hi guys, welcome to the first episode of #Final Thoughts. So I'm Luke Carney for SimBoxx, and we are joining up with Southwest Boxing Media today. Scott kindly is joining us. We'll be discussing our thoughts and touching on Fight Week. Some of the 1 second, sorry. So we're just waiting on Scott here joining up of Southwest Boxing Media. If you're not already, make sure you check out their work. How are we doing, Scott? Yeah, so we're just literally going through the topics of conversation, what we're going to touch on. You know, obviously, if you'd like to introduce yourself, let the guys know where we could find you across social media.
Yeah, so we're on, it's just at Southwest Boxing Media, pretty much on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, like yourselves. So yeah, just on all the generic sort of social media platforms.
Fantastic. So, you know, I'm really excited to discuss the fight with yourself today. You know, of course, I had the podcast with you and Breeze. We put our thoughts out there. But it's good to get another insight of another social media channel, another social media platform. You know, it's a huge fight. I think as the fight gets nearer, it's really started to take hold how big of a fight and how historic of a moment it actually is. You know, I'm really excited for the fight and really excited to discuss and break down the fight with yourself tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I like, obviously, when I gave my predictions to you, I think I've changed my mind. I keep switching back and forth, to be honest. I don't know about yourself. I don't know what your thoughts are. You know, I mean, it's a pick'em fight. It's a 50-50. I think it's, to be honest, one of the most 50-50 fights I think we've had in recent times. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's a perfect match of boxer and puncher, you know, and every kind of boxing analogy you want to throw at this. You know, the fight's got it. You know, they're both undefeated. You know, Tyson Fury, the lineal champion. Deontay Wilder, the WBC heavyweight champion, of course. You know, so there's everything to gain for these fighters. And as fans of boxing, you know, there's everything for us to gain from the fight. So I think if we you know, we keep the chat tailored around the lines of the fight week. You know, if we start off back at the press conference, you know, quite a fiery press conference, quite surprising as such, given the bromance, almost the camaraderie between the fighters in the build-up previously. You know, that all went out the window. Yeah,
I think. I mean, we've seen this before. You know, I think when the fight is quite far away, I think the mood is more relaxed. They haven't been through such a, you know, a training camp, a 7-8 week training camp, where they're working hard. I think the closer they get to the fight, I think people they just get more stressed. I think they get more worked up. I think they realise then how much is on the line. You know what they're actually fighting for. Obviously, you know, when you're in days even up to the fight. So I just think, yeah, and plus I think they're both great speakers and they both love to sell a fight. I think that's sort of, you know, part of the needle that we saw in the recent press conference. I don't know if you think the same.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, they're both natural salesmen. You know, if they wasn't boxers, you could certainly see them as salesmen. You know, such as their knack to want to sell a pay-per-view or. But I think what surprised me was the insults from Deontay Wilder to Tyson Fury, the way he brought up the cocaine abuse and
the mental health
weight and stuff, in the mental health side of things. You know, I think that was quite close to the wire. You know, I think it's a bit of a sensitive subject, and rightly so. And you know, I'm not sure what you think yourself, but for me, I think
that was quite a low blow on his behalf.
Definitely, I think, you know, it's difficult because I know Fury in the past has crossed boundaries himself, you know, and touched on subjects that were a bit more of a sensitive variety, if you like, you know. So I don't think it's out of the realms of Tyson Fury to be that controversial. But I was surprised. I didn't expect it. I think that added to the surprise as well.
Do you think that because there was so much said about the fact that people thought that Fury got into Wilder's head in the first fight, do you think that maybe he was trying to do the same back, you know, for the second fight? That's maybe why he tried to sort of bring up to sort of, you know, maybe annoy Tyson a bit, or?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you know, usually when it's come to these kind of face-offs or discussions between them, when you know they've come into close proximity with each other, it's always seemed like Tyson Fury has got the upper hand. He's always come off better for it, you know, and he kind of has Deontay Wilder dancing to his tune, if you like, in terms of, you know, it comes natural to Tyson Fury. So I think Deontay Wilder almost came in there prepared.
You were surprised there was no... I mean, I was quite surprised that there was no security anywhere near the pair of them. I mean, you know what it can be like before a fight, and they did push each other. Do you quite surprised at the lack of sort of, you know, anybody trying to stop it from happening?
Yeah, maybe so. You know, I think the fact that it had been so jovial in the build-up, you know, didn't warrant it. You know, it wasn't like, I remember back in 2012 when we, of course, had David Hay and Derek Chisora.
And sort of the fencing between the two of them.
Yeah, and that bad blood came, obviously, from the original press conference. So I think there was no need for it up until this point. And again, it goes back to the shock value and the surprise element that we just didn't see it coming. So in hindsight, of course, we should have had security, and you know, obviously they didn't have a face-off at the weigh-in, which is something that we'll touch on later on. But at that moment in time, I can't say there should have been security because nothing in the build-up had led to that being needed. So obviously, you know, I think personally as well, the press conference was dragged out a little for me. You know, I don't think it warranted. And on the US broadcast side of things, you know, it was an hour long, but it was 4 15-minute security, 4 15-minute sections, and it just didn't warrant it for me. I think they could have accomplished everything they needed in the first 15 minutes, and then switched back to like a celebrity panel, if you like, or an expert panel, and discuss the fight.
I listened to the Steve Benson Costello podcast a few days ago, and they were talking, and they literally said exactly the same thing. It reads great on paper, 4 15-minute sections, you know, build it up. But they just said it just really, really didn't work. And Steve Bannon said there was actually people there on their phones throughout most of it, because they pretty much talked about everything they needed to talk about in the first 15 minutes. So I think to me that it didn't really work much for me either, if I'm being honest. But you know, good on them for trying something new, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, alongside the crowd that was there, the live crowd that, again, almost seemed bored and it was on the phones.
Yeah.
I think the fighters came across almost tired. You know, there was in the first 15 minutes or so, the insults were being traded. You know, it was quick, it was snappy, and then in the end, it just petered off, and it was almost like they was repeating things, and they didn't really have the energy to continue. Surprised.
They did like a face-up at the beginning. I would have expected that really more towards the end, and I'm not quite sure why that was the format, but you know.
Yeah, so obviously we move on from the final press conference. Of course, the final hurdle then in fight week before the fight itself. We moved on to the weigh-in, which has definitely got a lot of opinions and a lot of people talking, and rightly so. You know, the results of the weigh-in was, you know, not to be expected, to say the least.
No, I mean, we all knew Fury was going to come in, I think, heavy. I didn't think he was going to come in at, you know, 19.5 stone. I think it would be more of the 18.5 stone I was expecting. So, yeah, to put, you know, 17 pound more on since the last fight was a bit of a shock. But then both fighters, I mean, Deontay Wilder put 19 pound extra on. So, I mean, both fighters are coming heavy. Why do you think they've done that?
I think it's quite interesting, you know, just for the guys that might be watching that were unsure of the weigh-in. You know, I don't know if you've lived under a rock or not, but the exact weights, obviously, Tyson Fury weighed in at 19 stone 7, which translates to 273 pounds. Deontay Wilder 16 stone 7. It's unbelievable weight for Deontay Wilder, which equates to 231 pounds. Personally, I think the weight, I think a lot of people think it's built for power, and they could be right, and that both men are chasing a knockout, but I think that Tyson Fury is not going to win by, and this is something, again, we'll go more in depth with, but I don't think Tyson Fury is going to win by a single punch knockout. I think that's common knowledge. So I think Tyson Fury's best way of a knockout is to drag him into the deeper waters, the later rounds, and wear him out, you know, outman him, outgun him, lean all over him, and then when he does gas, if he was to gas, then take him out with a combination of punches rather than one single shot. And then to counter that, I think Deontay Wilder's come in heavier to help defend himself. I think he expected Fury to be heavy, and I think he's added on the extra bulk himself to kind of counteract that, you know, and help in the clinches and help, you know, the shoving and the pushing around. And then, of course, it also adds extra power to his freakishly powerful punches as it is.
Yeah. I mean, Do you think Fury still bounce around the ring as much? I mean, being 19-7, I mean, I know this is obviously, this is only the third. He's been heavy before. He's been twice. He's 2 other fights. He's been heavier since. I mean, I don't. Do you believe that Fury's actually going to go and trade and he's actually going to go looking for this knockout punch, or do you think that's just mind games?
I'm not sure. I think the weight suggests so. Ash Williams comments here saying, I honestly thought Fury was going to come in the same weight or a few pounds lighter and try and dance. Wilder definitely come in heavy deliberately, and not sure if Fury has. And I think that's a great comment to make. Is Fury just not really focused on his weight and just decided what I am on the scales is what I am, whereas as Wilder might have had a game plan and an actual idea to want to purposely bulk up for the aforementioned game plan that we mentioned, to help strengthen in the clinches. I think it's a dangerous element of the fight if Tyson Fury was planning on coming into a 2-round gunfight with the most dangerous man in boxing.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense why you would. I mean, surely the worst game plan any boxer could have going in against Wilder would be to go in early and to try trade in with him early. That's sure, in my opinion, that's the worst thing anybody could do with Deontay Wilder, would be to go looking for an early knockout, knowing that he's going to be fit and healthy in round 1 and 2 as well, and he's going to be looking to use that right hand as quick as he can. I hope he doesn't try and do that, because I think that's just going to end in a knockout for Deontay Wilder, in my opinion. It obviously could be wrong, but I think looking back at the sort of Otto Wallin fight, I think it was 18-2 going into that, and I really don't think that was a very good performance. I think even he admitted he was a bit drained, so I think maybe the adding on of the weight, I think, was a sort of a reaction to the poor performance at being 18-2 for Wallin, I think. So yeah, I mean, if anything, it adds to the intrigue of the fight, the fact that they were both coming a lot heavier than what everybody thought. So I mean, it's great for us because it gives us more to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was another swerve. It was another curveball that wasn't expected. So when the Av came in heavier, again, it's just been a great topic of conversation, and that touches on to my next subject, which is how do you think both men's psychological mindset is at the minute after the weigh-in? Who do you think is asking the most questions of themselves post weigh-in?
I mean, I've got to be honest. I mean, I'm a big Fury fan. I love the fact that he's such a great sort of technician when it comes to mind games. Yeah. I don't know. He seemed a bit subdued. I know, obviously, we said it was an hour-long press conference. To me, from what I saw, I think Deontay Wilder looks the more sort of settled sort of fighter, if I'm being honest. But then you never know with Fury. This could all be some big ruse. He's come in, with his hood up, his glasses on. He's never really done that before. Maybe this is all part of Fury's mind games. He didn't take his top off on the scales. Is that more mind games? You just never know. Personally, from just looking at it, I sort of lean towards Wilder coming off the better out of the two. Just on from what I saw and what I heard, he seemed more relaxed. Fury seemed a bit more sort of insular, which isn't really Tyson Fury. So I don't know. I think Wilder sort of come off better, if I'm being honest, in the more recent press conferences. But you just never know with Fury. You never know what he's thinking. I mean, what was your thoughts on it?
I think the beautiful thing is about the matchup of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury is that the self-belief in both men is unparalleled. I think the only match that they have is each other. In terms of there's not a single ounce of doubt in either man entering the ring tonight that they won't get the win. And I think that same logic applies to anything to do with any kind of competitive nature. So press conferences, I'm sure both men think they got the best of that. Weigh-in mind games, I think both men will believe they've planted a seed of doubt in the other guy more than they're worrying themselves. Deontay Wilder, with all his knockouts, he knows his game plan has worked every single time, apart from Tyson Fury. So that can be looked at one or two ways. 40-odd fights, and all but one has gone to plan, and Tyson Fury was a second away from staying down for in the 12th round. You know, easily could have been waved off. Whereas Tyson Fury has answered every question ever asked of him. You know, the cut last time out against Otto Wallin was horrendous. So I think both guys have the right to believe that they're correct in being as confident as they are. Personally, like to answer the question in the short form is, I don't think either man will believe that they lost. So therefore, I can't pick a loser out of the two.
No, I think, and when you look at the sort of the knockdown as well, I think that's sort of a psychological thing that I think Fury has over Wilder. He's the only man that's got up from a knockdown from Wilder, and I also think Wilder knows that he can get to Fury, whereas not many people have really got. I mean, obviously, he's been Cunningham knocked him down, but
it was more of a flash knockdown.
He's got to Fury twice. He knocked him down twice. And they were, he's got to him, and Fury, that. So I think that's evenly matched up. That Deontay Wilder knows Fury can get up, so that's sort of a +1 for Fury. But then Deontay Wilder knows they can get the Fury, so that's sort of a +1 for Wilder. So it's very, very much equally balanced, I think. Which again leads for a fun. This is why everyone's so intriguing in the fight, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a comment there. Ryan Carney asks, shout out to my little brother, by the way, showing support. Going after weigh-in, Fury to me has played into Wilder's hands, coming in so heavy. Carrying that weight, and Wilder is going to catch him even easier this time around. I suppose there is, that goes back to the original point we made earlier, where if Fury has come in to stand and trade with him and that extra weight is for power, then it's not going to end very well.
No.
I think we've touched on that already, which kind of answers itself in a way, because it can't really be...
But then
a way where Fury wins a shootout.
Yeah, but then does that 3 stone mean you can lean on him a bit more? That's going to...
Certainly, I think it plays a part.
I think it's going to take gas up the tank, 3 stone leaning, heavier leaning on you. I mean, if he does get in close, which I think that's what he's going to do, he's going to get in close to take away the range, to take away the right from Wilder. He's going to lean on him a lot and maybe try and wear him down. Maybe that's the plan. I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah,
the weight has its pros and cons, isn't it? As his pros, you can lean on him. As his cons are, if it goes late, is he going to tire? So
I think it is. It's like a double-edged sword in the fact that you almost have the question for the first 6 rounds, of how things are going to play out, and how the weight will aid or debilitate either man. And then after 6 rounds, the question will be reposed then as to which man's going to deal with the added weight better. Yeah. So I think it starts off one question and then it slowly develops into a second question, because I think if it goes past 6 rounds, I think the added weight for Tyson Fury will be more of a factor, and a plus point for him. Whereas Wilder's added weight is on the end of them punches early for me. Yeah.
I mean, because obviously Wilder's added more weight, so if anything, really, past 6. I mean, Wilder's added 19 pounds since the last time. Fury's only added 17, so if anything, that, like you said, that's going to sort of be a con for Wilder rather than a pro for Fury. So we just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So before we move on to our predictions, we do have a couple of Twitter questions to answer. First off, and it's a good question. Shout out to Nigel Hines, great guy. Nigel has always supported SimBoxx, so big shout out to Nigel. And he asks, it's a double question. He asks, do you think Fury training with Sugar Hill Stewart means he'll implement a more attack-based approach?
Well, I'd have to say, only off, the reason why I think Fury said, he wants more knockouts. He wants this 20, number 21 knockout. He's a Kronk fighter. The Kronk fighters are known for knocking people out. If you look back at, Emmanuel Stewart had over the years, they're all knockout artists. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's why why else would you change from a fantastic relationship with Ben Davidson, and why would you go with a Kronk fighter if you didn't want to have that knockout power? So I would assume, the reason why he's gone with, Sugar Hill is to, plant his feet more and, to get more knockouts. That's, I can't understand why else he would why he would go with him, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, my train of thought is very similar to your own there. I think that I don't think it's the the more attacking approach is a reaction to bringing in Sugar Hill. I think he's brought in Sugar Hill because he wanted to be more attacking. I think it's his decision, and I don't think he's been asked to be more attacking by Sugar Hill. I think that's why the change was made. I think that was a decision that he took, and then he went out and found a more accomplished coach in an attacking form. Maybe I think Ben Davidson's a great tactician. Maybe Sugar Hill's going to be, like you say, with the Kronk style behind him. He's going to bring out a more aggressive side of Tyson Fury. The weight, the mindset, everything suggests that is an attack-based approach from the off, definitely. In the second part of Nigel's question, do you think that Tyson Fury's team believe Wilder doesn't pose the same threat on the back foot, and that's why they might have such an attacking mindset going in?
I mean, he was in the back foot for 7 or 8 rounds against Ortiz, wasn't he? Lost every single round and then knocked him out like that. I mean, I don't know. I think Deontay Wilder gets a lot of flack. I think he's a much better boxer than what people think, in my opinion. He's not a great back foot boxer, don't get me wrong, but I think he's got patience, and I think he's happy to, he knows, surely he must know he's not going to be winning rounds against Fury. That's not what Deontay Wilder does. I hope they're not underestimating the fact that, maybe they're trying to take away that sort of the back footness of Wilder, because I think Deontay Wilder can end the fight, as we all know, in whenever that right lands. So yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that I agree with that. I think I don't know. I think it's a bit of a tricky one now.
Yes, it's a great question. I think given the unorthodox nature of Deontay Wilder's approach to any fight and any opponent, I don't believe his punching power or his punching impact, such as in his unorthodox approach anyway, is impacted in any way by being on the back foot. Of course, on the front foot, he's going to be at his devastating best. And as you say, even when he's losing fights, he doesn't panic. His patience shown against Luis Ortiz is that he knew it was going to come. In the first Fury fight, he waited until taking away the 9th round. He waited until the 12th round, and still found the huge one too. That would have kept down, for me, any other heavyweight in the division. I don't see anybody else recovering the way Fury done back in December 2018. And to that effect, I don't think Fury would get up from that again. I think that was almost like an act of God. It was unbelievable, and such an inspiring moment. So personally, I do think they believe Wilder's less dangerous on the back foot, although I don't actually believe that myself.
To be honest.
Yeah. Ewan Breeze, member of SimBoxx, he asked something that we've already touched on, but we'll go over it again in respect to Ewan's question, is that, thoughts on them both coming in so heavy. So again, we touched on it and how it might affect both guys at any point in the fight. It was a shock, of course it was. And I just think it makes for an interesting fight, even more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk all day. I mean, the fight is just every sort of aspect of the fight I find completely and utterly interesting. I just can't. I really honestly have no idea whatsoever what's going to happen. I just hope it's quite similar to the first one, because I really want Fury to win. But I mean, yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen, and I guess that's why I find it so intriguing, I guess. Yeah.
So, you're not going to enjoy the next subject. You say, you're not too sure what's actually going to happen, but our final part, is going to be our final predictions. I gave my prediction as well as yourself for the prediction videos. I broke down the fight with you and Breeze. But the point of this last segment here is, after fight week, after seeing everything that's gone on way in the press conference, this is our opportunity, if there's been any change or if anything has reformed in your mind, the opportunity to put it out there. I'll give you the floor first.
Okay, so on my SimBoxx prediction, I said Fury points. Since seeing the weigh-in, I don't know. I'm, you know, I really want Fury to win. I don't know. I just think with the extra weight, I can just see him just getting hit. And like you said, I can't see him getting back up again. I just got a bad feeling Wilder could take him early. And I don't know why I think that. I just got a feeling that Fury is going to try and trade early, and I just think he's just going to get caught. I think he's going to get knocked out this time. I think he's going to get. I hope it doesn't happen, but my head is saying an early Wilder knockout, which I really hope doesn't happen. But I just think that's from seeing the way in. I just see a Wilder early knockout for some reason. What about you?
You know, funnily enough, Scott, I think I'm inclined to agree with you. My thoughts have been with the fight for the past 36 hours, you know, in terms of, you know, breaking it down and overthinking things and trying to predict and trying to be settled on a prediction. You know, originally I said between rounds 4 and 8 for Deontay Wilder. Again, I wouldn't be surprised by that. But part of me is inclined to believe that Fury is set on coming in for this 2-round war, this back and forth, and the shootout in 2 rounds. And if that does happen, it's not going to end well for him. So therefore, my final prediction is going to be Deontay Wilder inside 2 rounds if Tyson Fury comes. If Tyson Fury comes to fight and he comes with the game plan that he's been professing since the rematch was announced, that this 2-round knockout was going to happen, I think he'll be outgunned. It'll be outpunched, and I think it'll be a brutal knockout inside 2 rounds. I hope I'm wrong, of course. I'd love Tyson Fury to bring the belt back, of course, but we've got to be impartial where we can. And my head is saying inside 2 rounds, Deontay Wilder on the back of everything that we've seen this week. But something that I want to touch on, Scott, and it's something that's not really been discussed too much, given the fact that a lot of people believe it's going to be a Wilder knockout or a Fury points win, or at a push, maybe a late Fury stoppage. And something that's been almost like dismissed without thought is a Wilder points victory.
Yeah.
Now, my thoughts on this are, what if these close rounds like it was in the first fight? You know, a lot of the judges gave some of the early rounds to Wilder last time, which I didn't agree with, but hey-ho, they give him. So if a few rounds like there was last time where there wasn't much going on, you know, there wasn't a lot of action, I'm not going to say I'm going to see it, but I wouldn't be surprised by a situation where if after 6 rounds, Fury's up, won the first 4, and then in rounds 5 and 6, he's knocked down, and he gets back up, and then he's knocked down again in the 6th, and he gets back up, and then it might become a pick and fight, you know, and a what you like kind of fight in terms of scoring the rounds. And I think, not that Wilder's going to win on points by outboxing Tyson Fury, but what if he scores multiple knockdowns and these tight rounds that might be given one way or another? I think that could certainly play into reality.
Yeah, I mean, number one, obviously, is in Las Vegas. I mean, you know, there's been a few dodgy scorecards in Las Vegas in the past. Number 2, in the first fight, there was a British judge, you know, obviously gave it as a draw.
Yeah.
So there was that sort of balance. But this time there's 3 American judges in Las Vegas. So my thought is if it is very close, if it is a close fight and it goes to cards, you know, it really wouldn't surprise me if they gave it to Wilder on points. But like you said, I think the only way I think they can give it to Wilder on points is if there is a couple of knockdowns, if there's a few 10-8s in there. I think if there's no knockdowns, I think it's going to be. I don't see how Deontay Wilder.
Oh yeah, I certainly echo that. Yeah, I certainly echo the fact that, you know, if there is no knockdowns, then I'd be absolutely outraged if it went to Wilder on points. It just doesn't seem fathomable. But I do think if there was multiple knockdowns and Fury was to survive and it was to go 12 rounds, then there could be a seeded out. There could be questions asked at that point. But again, it's unlikely. But
yeah, I mean, my opinion on, you know, at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder is the world champion, and I think if you're going to go to America and fight the current world champion, you've got to sort of rip the belt off him. You can't sort of win a world title by, you know, just about doing it. I think to go to Las Vegas, you've got an American referee, you've got 3 American judges. He's the WBC world champion. I think you've got to do a bit more than just about wrestle the belt of him. I think you've got to rip it off him. So you know, I wouldn't be totally surprised with the Deontay Wilder points win if there was a few knockdowns. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, something else again I want to touch on to finish is looking beyond this fight. You know, if that's at all possible. You know, I really can't wait for this fight. But if we was to look beyond this, and if we was to look from a Tyson Fury point of view and a Deontay Wilder point of view, if either man was to get the victory, where do we see their career paths going, say, over the next 12 months? Of course, the clause there where there might be an immediate rematch, but we'll take that into context as we're speaking.
Okay, so if there wasn't a third fight, I mean, I'd like to think that both men would do the obvious thing and fight, you know, Anthony Joshua. That's what everybody wants to see. Yeah, I mean, if there was no third fight, surely it has to be, you know, Anthony Joshua. Eddie Hearn was talking today. I heard Eddie Hearn talking today, saying that, you know, there's, you know, a 50-50 split out there for either winner. You know, there's going to be a lot of money in it. I mean, surely Anthony Joshua wants to fight for the undisputed as much as Tyson Fury and Wilder does. So, I mean, I think it's easier, in my opinion, it's easier if Fury was to win, because obviously the relationship between Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn is a lot closer than, obviously, I keep going to say Shirley Winkle, Shirley Finkel, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Shirley Finkel, yeah. So I think it's easier for Hearn to make the Fury fight because of the relationship they got with Bob Arum. Obviously, they made Lomachenko and Campbell recently. So I hope, one, I hope Fury wins because he's British. Two, I hope Fury wins because I think it makes the unification fight easier for Fury and AJ. I mean, if Wilder does win, I don't know. I think the third fight will happen then, and I think I just think the AJ and the Wilder fight is going to be a really difficult one to make, just because there's ego of fighters and there's ego of promotion companies there as well. So yeah, that's what I think will happen personally.
Yeah. So my thoughts are, of course, if Tyson Fury wins this fight and it's on points, then the third fight happens regardless. You know, I think this whole conversation is void because the third fight will happen if Tyson Fury wins on points. Now, the interesting point for me is if Deontay Wilder, as I predicted, wins by knockout, what Fury's mindset might have been on the back of that. So I think there could be a point where Tyson Fury, you know, he's mentioned that he's only got a few fights left. You know, he's mentioned that, you know, these 3 fights on his top rank deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a situation where Tyson Fury takes a step back from the third fight, from the trilogy, allows Deontay Wilder to go into an anti-Joshua fight on the pretense that the winner of that fight then defends against him, which, as a fan, I'd love. You know, I think it'd make more sense. I think even for the loser either way, that could make a lot of sense, because the money that would be in a fight with Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury, you know, let's imagine Wilder wins, he goes on to the undisputed fight with Anthony Joshua, and the undisputed champion then defending against Tyson Fury is a huge fight. You know, I think there's still so many options out there. But for me, the most likely would be Wilder winning, Tyson Fury stepping aside for the immediate trilogy, Wilder Joshua happening in December, fingers crossed, and then 2021, the winner of that fight then fighting Tyson Fury.
My only worry with a Fury knockout is I'd worry that Fury might just say, I know he's got those fights left on his, you know, on his deal.
It won't be past him to walk away. Yeah.
He might just think, that's it, I'm leaving, done. So that's sort of one of the reasons why I hope that he doesn't get knocked out quite brutally, because I think he might just pack it in. So yeah, but yeah, that would be fantastic if somehow he'd move aside and it'd allow for the, you know, the underside, because I think the Ring magazine is involved tonight as well, isn't it?
Definitely.
So you'd obviously have every single possible belt then for the undisputed, which I think would be unbelievable.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be in the UK. Hopefully.
That would be the upside, of course, to Fury getting the win. I think that we'd see Anthony Joshua and Fury at Wembley. But Scott, you know, I think, you know, we took a great look at the fight there. You know, we've had the fans' questions, the viewers' questions incorporated into the chat. You know, I think for the first episode of #Final Thoughts, it's gone as well as it possibly could. I'm glad that I've been able to get like my thoughts out there, you know, and you know, it was a delight to have you along here to get your thoughts out there too.
Next time, though, I'll flip my camera on the other way, so it's
of course, no problem. You know,
by error on my VR.
Not to worry, but you know, I'm sure everyone heard you loud and clear. But you know, for the guys listening, you know, if you can go follow SimBoxx on Twitter, you know, at SimBoxx. We're on Instagram, of course, SimBoxx Boxing. And at the same time, go and check out Southwest Boxing Media. You know, these guys are doing a lot of great work. You know, they're getting around. You know, you spoke to O'Hara Davis recently, and there's a lot of really good content on there. And moving forward, you're going to be finding SimBoxx and Southwest Boxing Media working together quite a lot. You know, it's exciting times. 2020 is going to be a big year for both channels.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. We look forward to it.
Definitely. So enjoy the fight.
Yeah,
hope everyone watching enjoys the fight.
Yeah,
Take care, mate. All the best.
Yeah, speak soon. Bye, mate.